Thank you, Miss Beverly, for sharing your story. Just like everyone in here, we all have a story, and we're all extremely blessed. And today I would just like to share a little bit of my testimony with you guys, but along with just sharing my testimony, I would also like to share with you sort of a message out of what I've learned from my testimony, because it's good that what God has done in my life and in our lives, that He's healed us, but that's not the only thing that counts. Everything happens for a reason, everything happens for a purpose, and behind everything that happens, there's a message behind it. And so I'd like to share with you the message that I've gotten out of my experience of being a cancer survivor. Like he said, my name is Levi Evans. I'm 20 years old. I'm a junior at LaGrange College. I'm a business entrepreneurship major. I'm the vice president of my chapter of Delta Psi Delta fraternity, and I'm a cancer survivor. When I was 14, thank you. When I was 14, I actually had the honor of speaking here, and I'm extremely honored to be invited back 6 years later. I guess I wasn't too bad the first time I did it, so that's why I got to come back. On January 15th, 1999, I was diagnosed with a form of cancer called Burkitt's lymphoma. For those of you who don't know, Burkitt's lymphoma is a form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in which cancer starts in the immune cells called B cells. Probably don't want to mess this up. It is recognized as the fastest growing human tumor, and it can double its size within 24 hours. Cases of Burkitt's lymphoma in the U.S., they usually start in the bowels, and they form a bulky mass in the abdomen, and it has massive involvement with the liver, spleen, and bone marrow. And this common case that is found in the U.S. was found in my body. I was 3.5 years old when I was diagnosed, and God's been good to me ever since. The symptoms of Burkitt's lymphoma are loss of appetite, weight loss, fatigue, night sweats, unexplained fever. These were symptoms that I was experiencing weeks before I was even diagnosed. And my mom knew there was something wrong with me, but she wasn't quite sure until one night I was running a really high fever. And she rushed me up to Noonan to my pediatrician's office. And he saw me and he told her, he's like, "You got to get him to Atlanta right now, to the Children's Hospital." I go up to the Children's Hospital, and after running a few tests, the doctors informed my parents that I had stage 3 Burkitt's lymphoma. Treatment for Burkitt's lymphoma is intensive chemotherapy, and I went through 8 rounds of it within 4 months. And I also ran several different tests and treatments, like having the joy of experiencing 7 spinal taps. Because of the love and support from family and friends, the diligent work of doctors, and the grace of God, I was cured of cancer and went into remission on May 12th, 1999. A lot of people ask me if I even remember having cancer, which is a pretty understandable question because I was only 3 years old, and I'm sure there's not a lot of people out there who remember what they were doing at 3 years old. Honestly, I don't remember a whole lot of it, and I might not even remember the half of it, but I do hold memories with me of being in the hospital and going through treatment. I hold memories of those 4 months, both good memories and bad memories. I remember memories, bad ones, and like always having to use the restroom, but the frustration of not ever being able to go to the restroom. I remember the painful experience of receiving my first catheter. I remember sitting in a recliner while radiation was being pumped into my body. And I remember constantly being poked with needles. And I also remember the extreme desire I had to never receive a feeding tube. Along with those, I also have very good memories of having cancer. I remember constantly being visited by friends and family. I remember my mom always bringing me Chick-fil-A because I refused to eat the hospital food. I remember jumping up and down on my hospital bed wearing a Jeff Gordon helmet when he won the 1999 Daytona 500. That's the man, Jeff Gordon, right there. I remember constantly watching tapes of my favorite TV shows as a child, like JJ the Jet Plane. I remember the love and the care the nurses provided for me every day. I remember my childhood goal was to grow up and be Walker, Texas Ranger. So I would walk the hospital hallways every day and rocking cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and a fake gun when my parents would let me. But I would scare a lot of the other patients, so I just stopped doing that. Going back to not being able, not wanting to receive a feeding tube, I remember walking through the hallway one day and I walked by a room, and in that room I saw this young boy, a little bit older than me, and he was laying in his hospital bed watching TV or doing something, and he had a feeding tube placed in his nostrils. And I didn't know what the tube was, and I didn't know what the purpose of it, but I do remember looking at my parents and saying, I don't want one of those. Well, it came to a day where I wasn't eating, and the nurses told my parents that he has 1 week to gain 5 pounds, and we're gonna have to put a feeding tube in him. And after my mom told them, they said, look, he does not want a feeding tube, and they said, okay, well, you have a week to get him to gain 5 pounds. And through the grace of God, in that 1 week, I gained 6 pounds. So never had to receive a feeding tube. These memories that I hold with me are memories I'm going to carry with me till the day I die. And I'll be forever grateful for them. Sorry. Honestly, I'm forever grateful for having cancer. I view it as a blessing every day. It gives me a testimony, and it gives me a sense of purpose in this life, and knowing that God has a plan for me, like He does for everybody in this room. How many of y'all believe that everything happens for a reason in this life? Good, because I do too. I want to say a few things too. I hope I don't offend anybody in this room for what I'm about to say. But I want to say that when I was growing up, I've always been told that I'm a hero or I'm their inspiration. But I want to tell you today that I'm not a hero and I'm not an inspiration. I was 3 years old when I had cancer. I had no concept of what life or death was. My instinct as a 3-year-old was just to survive. I didn't have the fear of death. I didn't have to worry about what family I was going to leave behind if I did die. I didn't have to worry about bills being laid on them or anything. I was 3 years old. I had no care in the world. And I was just very innocent. But with that though, being a 3-year-old and having no concept of life and having no concept of death and just being a sponge, because children are all sponges and we just soak up everything that we see around us. I'd like to share with you a message of we need to learn how to have like a faith like a child and to have the determination of a child. And that's what it's taught me, because I've thought recently in my head, if I was told today, if I didn't have cancer when I was 3 years old, and I was told today that you have Burkitt's lymphoma, I would probably be scared out of my mind right now. And I would have nothing but fear and worry. And In Matthew 18, the disciples asked Jesus, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And in verse 3, Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." In this verse, God is calling his disciples and us to have faith like children. Because children can't fully comprehend things like life and death and fear, like adults do. However, children are loving, trusting, and dependent on their parents and those who take care of them. Just like we should be loving, trusting, and dependent on God who takes care of us. In verse 7, Jesus continues to say, "Woe to the world because of the things that cause such people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person to whom they come." I believe fear is one of those things that Jesus is referring to in this verse. Fear of the unknown and the known has held a lot of people back from their full potential in lives. Fear becomes instilled in our lives through the mouths of other people and also through their own learnings and experiences of life. Children are not, like I said earlier, children are not only ignorant to fear and death, but they are also dependent. Just like a child is dependent to their parents, God calls us to be dependent on him. God wants us to have that same faith in him that he will supply all of our needs, just like when we were younger and we believed that our parents would be there and supply all of our needs. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed. Be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. Yes, I will uphold you in my righteous hand." As a cancer survivor, I have a tremendous amount of respect for all cancer survivors, no matter the type of cancer you had, how long you had it, or the age you had it. However, I do hold this extreme, tremendous respect for those who battled cancer at an older age than I did, for those who battled it in their teens, in their young adult years, and their elderly and adult years. The reason why I have such respect for you guys is, like I said earlier, I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know what death was. I didn't know what life was. But all of you here today did and do when you found out that you had cancer. And I know you had to tap into your inner faith and find your childhood-like faith in God. And because of that, I want to say that you are way stronger than I ever was and that I am right now. And so I would like to say for all of you out there who are surviving cancer right now and have beaten cancer, I want to say that you guys are my heroes, and you guys actually inspire me. And to all the caretakers out there, I would like to say y'all are my heroes too, especially my parents. They were in that. They weren't the ones laying in that hospital bed, but I can probably guarantee that cancer was a lot tougher on them than it was on me. Questioning God, why would you allow this to happen to my 3-year-old child? And on top of that, I had a baby sister who I had to worry about taking care of. My dad was the only one working. And so, my dad would go into work every day, wondering about my health, wondering how he's going to provide for my family. and wondering if like my mom and my sister are okay. They sacrificed a lot of their time and their money and their duties to take care of me, just like all you caretakers did out there. Us survivors wouldn't be here without y'all today. In conclusion, I just want to say that always remember that everything in this life happens for a reason, and there's always a purpose and a message behind it. However, as we walk through these different stages of our life, of sickness, and of trying to figure out what our purpose is, or trying to fulfill our purpose in this life, always remember to have a faith like a child. Always depend on God, and always trust in God, and most importantly, always praise God through the good and the bad. Do not fear what tomorrow has in store for you, because God holds you upright in his righteous hand. Thank you.